There's a quote attributed to Chopin I've seen floating around for years, but never been able to source. It goes, "Simplicity is the final achievement. After one has played a vast quantity of notes, it is simplicity that emerges as the crowning reward of art." Whether or not Chopin actually said it, I find this quote apt when considering his mazurkas. There's something undeniably simple about this village music Chopin grew up dancing to in his native Poland. Yet Chopin's own mazurkas, while in many ways true to their humble folk origins, are among the crown jewels of Chopin's art. In fact, Chopin mazurkas straddle many dichotomies, elevated yet down to earth, dances but also songs, inhabiting both the salon and the tavern. They manage to compel both activism and reflection in their listeners. Indeed, adaptations of Chopin's mazurkas range from the abstract ballet Les Sylphides by the Russian composer Alexander Glazunov, to solo guitar arrangements by Jan Nepomucen Bobrovich. Virtuoso Polish guitarist who found himself plucking mazurkas for fellow compatriots in exile after the November uprising of 1830. Welcome to Season 2 of the Chopin Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Laude, and over the course of this series, we're diving deep into the music of Frédéric Chopin, with episodes on each of Chopin's major compositional genres. This is the second of 2 episodes dedicated to the mazurkas. In this episode, pianist Garrick Ohlsson confronts Chopin's most genius and epic mazurkas. Polish musician Janusz Przanowski reveals the living tradition of mazurking through its diverse folk styles and instruments developed over the centuries. Pianist and soprano Chelsea Guo stops by to sing us some Chopin, specifically a collection of mazurkas set to text by 19th century French singer, pianist, and composer Pauline Viardot. And finally, Garrick returns for an epilogue to the past 2 episodes, reflecting on a lifetime spent with Chopin's mazurkas. You can listen to full episodes of the Chopin Podcast on podcasting platforms the day of release, or watch video segments from each episode in the following days as they're posted to my YouTube channel. Just look up my name, Ben Laude. That's Benlaude. This podcast is produced in partnership with the Chopin Foundation of the United States, presenters of the National Chopin Competition in Miami, Florida, every 5 years. I was thrilled to host the live streams of the Miami competition this past January, and am excited to continue my collaboration with the Chopin Foundation through to the International Chopin Competition held in Warsaw this fall. The honorary chairman of the U.S. Chopin Foundation is none other than Garrick Ohlsson, who will be with us every step of the way during this podcast series. To this day, Garrick is the only pianist from the United States ever to win first prize at the International Chopin Competition. And in October 2025, he will become the first ever non-Pole to chair the competition in Warsaw. Garrick is one of the few pianists ever to record Chopin's complete works, published by the Hyperion label. Many of the recordings heard during this series are taken from that set. Digital downloads of the complete cycle are available for purchase on Hyperion's website. Yet, for as much time, thought, and energy Garrick has dedicated to Chopin's music over the years, he still stands in awe of the mazurkas and continues to probe them for renewed and deepened understanding.
I think it's our duty to point out right now, as good Chopin fans, that I believe the fact is that in all of the mazurkas and all of the polonaises, there is not a note of Polish folk music in any of it. Now, of course, somebody may prove me wrong about one piece, but the thing was, Chopin was a city boy, but he liked to go to the country in the summers, especially when he was a teenager, to an estate where after dinner, often the entertainment was the serfs, peasants, whatever you will, the working class folks who worked on the estate would play and sing, and maybe for themselves, and maybe the more privileged sat on the terrace listening. I don't know. But in any case, he certainly knew the sound of those Polish bagpipes which he invokes, in the Mazurkas especially.
I always loved that C major modal one. I like to say this is Grieg's first lyric piece.
Oh, very good, yeah. Then, not very long later, there's another modal thing, which is utterly charming. He actually gets into a kind of waltzy thing. It's lovely because our ear expects in this very harmonic waltzy climb. That would be normal, right? But that's that Lydian mode, which is so prevalent in Polish folk music too.
I wanted to read one testimony of a certain Princess Czartoryska. This was passed down through other writers, but she had studied a mazurka in D major, opus 33, number 2, with Chopin. At first played it in a brash, forthright way with no subtlety of nuance. It was only towards the end of the piece, at the theme's second appearance, bar 74 to the end, that she played it with a soft, caressing touch, utterly subtle and refined. When asked about this contrasting treatment, she replied that Chopin had taught it to her that way. In this piece, he wanted to present the contrast between the tavern and the salon. That was why he wanted the same melody played so differently. At the beginning, it was to evoke the popular atmosphere of the tavern, and towards the end, the refinement of the salons. So here we have that juxtaposition between refined city boy and maybe more folksy countryside or at least tavern, folk atmosphere.
That's true. Of course, according to the score, he doesn't wait till the end. He changes it every 8 bars. But certainly the two aspects of it are very clear: forte and accents on the third beat. And now no accents, pianissimo.
I like your idea better. I think it goes back and forth immediately between tavern and salon, and that's what the whole piece is about, is those sort of echo in the salon.
Yes, and in the trio, he does the same things kind of backwards. He begins at first in a very genteel way, when he modulates magically to B flat. That could be any lovely, elegant piece by Chopin, but then we have forte and there's the elegant Contessa and her count, and there's the tavern band.
The Opus 24, number 4 in B flat minor, I always imagine this sort of walls closing in around the fifth scale degree, just pushing themselves down and in, like that scene in Star Wars where the walls are closing in on Han Solo or whatever. But something's happening here. It's sort of squishing us into the main theme.
It's interesting. I experience it more as some other comment. I mean, I love the walls closing in, but also the fact that it's like the two dancers approach each other from opposite sides of the room. And the difference resistance is less, then they begin to dance. This is one of the greatest masterpieces of the whole bunch.
And not only do they begin to dance, but at least the tenor starts to sing another tune with the first tune still on top of it.
Oh, that's right.
In the most beautiful way. Lenz said that Chopin taught us that the third section is a mixed choir. The opening unison is answered by the chords, and nobody ever managed to satisfy him with these unisons. But these unisons, they're the women's voices in the choir, he would say, and they were never played delicately enough, never simple enough. One was barely allowed to breathe over the keyboard, let alone touch it.
And Chopin complained about also a B-flat minor. He could never be satisfied with those unisons. That's the mixed choir, or that's the more tavern-like aspect, whereas that's completely not on this planet.
Is this the best Mazurka? Jeez. I mean, there's many candidates.
Close to. This is one of the very, 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 very best ones of all.
And it's quite long for a Mazurka. And I guess that's one question is, we have short Mazurkas, we have medium Mazurkas, and we have longer ones, just as we have slow, middle and fast, don't we?
Yep, absolutely. And as it goes into the coda, it sings its very sad song for a while, once again with a kaleidoscopic range of moods and sort of indecision, not knowing where it's going quite. At one point, it wanders into thinking about happier times which never happened. But then... ending in a mysterious, non-harmonized way. I mean, that's the peak of romantic imagination. I mean, I imagine if Schumann could have known this, he probably would have just, as he always did with Chopin, say, "Oh, gentlemen, take your hats off." That's extreme. But it's, as you said about us when we were 10 years old, or 15 or 16 or even 19. Maybe we weren't ready for it. Maybe these are very mature pieces somehow. I don't mean mature in Chopin. Obviously was premature. I mean, he was mature by the time he was 20, obviously. But what I mean is that this is very highly wrought art.
One of the more electrifying mazurkas that I probably heard Rubinstein and certainly Horowitz played it a lot. Another C-sharp minor, Opus 30, number 4, which of course begins with another crazy harmony, but this one was, virtuosic. It's got the drone thing, and it's got really cool episodes. This one spoke to me as a teenager. I was into this one,
Yeah, I heard Horowitz play this when at the famous comeback in 1965 at Carnegie Hall, and I was 17 at the time, and it just drove me crazy. It's true. I mean, books have been written about this piece practically. It's an intro establishing the key, but at that time in musical history, somebody said it smelled like gunsmoke powder or something, this foul aroma. And you could even say this is almost like tuning the diabolical violin. Maybe rather than neat and clean. Who knows what it's supposed to be? But then the theme is amazing because, first of all, not only is there a drone, but there's a strum. A very common Chopin occurrence is a strum. Over which is a very beautiful. So it's seductive, it's elegant, it's a little crazy, and it keeps stopping. And coming back to itself. It stops in another way as a subsidiary episode. And a fermata. That's very virtuosic, that's very salon. And then comes one of those amazing episodes where Chopin gets stuck a little bit, but I have to talk about two things about it. One is the interim thing, which later becomes important. He sort of doesn't go anywhere there, right? Yeah. And he gives you a really fine tune. The genius of it is the incredible bass he gives it. But it kind of gets stuck there until you've heard it a lot, but it gathers in force simply by repetition. He doesn't want you to go much louder, but it's sort of like, okay, where are we going? Where are we going? And then suddenly it breaks loose into one of the most, I remember getting a chill at the Horowitz recital. I had goose pimples when it broke into the major after all this unhappy, discordant minor, and it builds up as if it's going to come to an incredible climax, and it does. And then once again, it doesn't. And so on. So we're back to the sadness of ordinariness and tragedy, if you will. when he gets to that stuck spot, which he did before, he actually adds a note and then 4 bars of parallel dominant sevenths descending. And I'll just play the harmony. Nothing could be more forbidden in classical voice leading than that. So I'll just play the actual section. But Brahms excerpts those 4 bars, and if I recall correctly, there's an exclamation point and it says genius.
Well, somehow I don't hear any parallel fifths, even though they're everywhere there. It's just what's happening on top.
Sevenths too. Yeah, it's all parallel. It's dominant sevenths. But I just love that Brahms's comment is not like, how dare he do this, but genius. Just, that's what are you going to do?
Well, I mean, yeah, when a music theory teacher forbids his students to do parallel fifths and octaves in an exercise, usually it's because they're glaring, because suddenly they create what sounds like a single line where there should be counterpoint. That's not the effect here at all. He found a way to harmonize them in a way that doesn't make the open fifth, in any sense upsetting to the ear.
Obviously, Brahms loved it, and I do too. And yet again, that shows us, even though Chopin is not 20 years old anymore, that, we're no longer astonished by this. We've had over 100 years of music since the Rite of Spring. But at that time, I can't imagine that kind of, blatant chromaticism. Well, put it this way, we didn't get it in European music till at least the French organ school and César Franck and that kind of stuff. Late 19th century. It's sort of horror music, except this is not horror. This is just...
I think that's Phantom of the Opera, Garrick.
Oh, yes. Well, yes. Speaking of parallels, we cannot leave the Mazurkas without talking about the most drony and the most country of all, which is Opus 56, number 2, in C. The key that he didn't write in very much. It's just such a drone. It's so country. And this is the one Chopin piece that Wanda Landowska played on the harpsichord. And it sounds very nice and very noisy and clattery, and I think that's fine. So anyway, I think there's hardly any Chopin you can play safely on a harpsichord.
Could you just blow a kiss to something in Opus 63 that I find utterly irresistible? That's just the theme to Opus 63 number 2.
Does this sound like Chopin or what?
Oh, I love it. I don't know, just that minor ninth or something.
That's just a gorgeous thing. Yeah.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, Chopin has been chromatic since he was a kid, but the chromatic designs get more and more intricate as he's older and more polyphonic. The Opus 59 set has a particularly chromatic and modulatory mazurka, the first one. Technically, I guess we're in A minor again, but whenever he writes something in A minor and it's a mazurka, it seems like there ain't no A minor in it. So could you just show us this one and what's special about it?
Well, that's not fair. It starts and ends in A minor, just barely. You've got a whole phrase in A minor. 5/7. But then
you're right. He uses A minor as a platform to go to all kinds of other places, it seems like.
But the moment he settles on that, he goes from key to key to key to key, he goes wandering. And there he brings the treble melody back in the tenor. And then in the trio where he goes into A major finally. That extremely complicated two-voice Chopin, two singers at once.
That is nice.
Of course, we'll meet things like that in the Barcarolle, which is just the very next opus, and we've met versions of that in where was it you mentioned how? That's one of his characteristic and enriching things. Anyway, this is a magnificent piece.
And not only is it chromatic harmonically, chromatic scales start pouring into the melody.
Right, which is something that he didn't do much later, but he did it a lot in earlier music.
Actually, there's a mazurka that was once referred to as a ballade. According to von Lenz, Chopin himself taught the Opus 33 number 4 B minor mazurka as a ballade. Lenz said it's a ballade in all but name. Ballade in the sense of there's a real narrative, a developed narrative here that builds and grows, and there's something quite climactic. And Lenz says, at the end, a bell tolls a heavy bass carillon, G, C, G, C, and the sudden arrival of the final chords sweep away the cohort of ghosts. Could you give us your history with this, one of the great epic mazurkas, beginning somewhat unassumingly, like it could have been a quick one, but boy, does it go somewhere.
Yes, it really does go somewhere. It's also a rondo, and when I was younger, I heard some pianists play it, and I thought it lasted a little too long. And then I heard Horowitz play it, and he intensified the narration somewhat. It begins very modestly. It wanders off, then gives you a single voice recitative. And here are some of the ghosts, maybe. Maybe they're dancing in the distance. Well, those aren't so ghostly. But the next ones are. Yeah, that's a magnificent, of course, Neapolitan.
And also, he's setting up something that's going to happen later at that same cadence point.
Very much so. So then everything repeats as if it's going to be undisturbed. It's an outburst, and it's powerful. And with this chromaticism, a marvelous wrong note, by the way. Chopin apologizes for with beautiful, elegant chromaticism, and then starts telling the whole story again. And then when we get to that same spot, then he moves into the trio, which is very full of, it's very tender and amoroso. It's like a love song almost. So that's really that operatic, melodic, slightly nocturne-like, slightly waltzy. The bass solo. And a duet here. I think these are our ghosts. Coming back to minor. And of course, when the opening theme comes back, it's transformed by everything that's been experienced in the meantime. I just think this 4-bar transition back. Then it kind of goes on, and you get those ghostly dancers in the distance, sotto voce, with this odd hand crossing. How often does Chopin cross hands like this? Not very often. And suddenly a tolling of a bell. At the end. It vanishes.
The marking at the end, risvegliato.
Risvegliato, awoken again. Where is that? I don't have it in this edition.
I have it in the Henley.
Is it last two bars?
Yeah, last two bars, risvegliato.
Oh, woken up again. Maybe I shouldn't have played it so soft.
You're listening to a performance of Chopin's Mazurka, Opus 33 No. 4 from the 11th National Chopin Competition, given by gold medalist and Mazurka Prize winner William Yang. The Miami competition was a huge hit, attracting over 300,000 YouTube views during the week-long event and selling out the final round concerts. It was my privilege to host the live streams on behalf of the Chopin Foundation and interview the many talented competitors. Congratulations to all of the prize winners, and especially to gold medalist William Yang and silver medalist Anthony Ratanoff, both of whom earned automatic admission to the live rounds of the International Chopin Competition this October. To relive their prize-winning performances from the national competition and all the other great playing and fun conversations that took place in Miami, make sure you're subscribed to the Chopin Foundation YouTube channel.